So glad you could join us for yet another episode of The Digest. Now this week we are talking Mukula. Trading in timber is a lucrative business that requires one who's interested to get legal documentation from the forestry department. Now, tree species to trade in will then be itemized and a specific area from which you can harvest. The area is called a concession, and the documentation herewith is called a concessional license. However, the industry has suffered a ban on trading in timber species, especially Mukula, for 5 years now, though it is alleged that the ban was selectively effective on the less privileged local citizens. The question the Digest team asks, was Mukula for the ruling elite? This documentary unveils discoveries on the ground. In 2017, then Minister of Lands and Natural Resources Jean Kapata effected a ban on the exportation of wood or logs of any timber tree species, including the famous Mukula tree, scientifically called Pterocarpus chrysothrix. The ban was in accordance with Statutory Instrument Number 94 of 2015, and that government was concerned because there was illegal harvesting of the Mukula tree in the country. However, was the ban effective? The truth behind Mukula trade unfolds. In Zambia, trading of the three species was highly done in Luapula and northwestern provinces. And for one to trade, they needed approval and licensing from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources under the Forestry Department. So before the ban, a number of people were holders of concessional licenses. A concessional license gives a trader authority to harvest timber trees in a specific concession area. A number of traders had cut and harvested Mukula in their concessions, but before they could ferry or sell them, the ban was effected. A visit to Luapula province led the Diamond team to Chief Chisunka's chiefdom, located in northern part of Mansa district in Luapula province, where Chief Chisunka experienced illegalities in the timber business, under which there still is a ban.
Not just here. In fact, even in my neighbors' ring chiefdoms, there was timber. When they burnt that timber, no one was correcting timber. And there was even fire. They started now destroying the timber which my people cut. It's like the government just said, no, can you bring the dollars together and put petrol there and burn it, So as traditional leaders, we didn't receive it properly with them. Of which was political, because we were seeing that the same with 10 years, with those politicians, the previous government, those leaders who were there, they started now failing that Mukula and selling it to Chinese people. We tried to talk to the provincial admin, we tried to talk to the district people, they said, no, it's not our baby. Ask the president or ask the ministers at the national level. When we go, I even went to Jenny Kapata to go and see him, to go and see her. She said, no, it's not my baby unless you talk to the president. Now, to access the president, it's not easy for villagers to go and see the president. So, but we are even seeing that a lot of trucks, containers of trucks coming from here in Mansa, take it to wherever they were taking it. Is it in Tanzania, China, whatever? We are just reading it in the social medias that they have routed our resources. And to make matters worse, they brought Chinese in our camp at Z10 years there to start now saying, no, they are processing timber. Where on earth you can bring an investor to put up a plant or to do something in the camp, in the barrack? I think we were so wondering as traditional leaders. No, it didn't. With those people those leadership on top there, they were cutting, and they were using the ZNS to escort the trucks of Mukulas. They banned to local peoples who were supposed to benefit as their owner of the resources, natural resources. But they were saying, no, it's legal. But for themselves, they were still cutting. When the president came to officiate the Musonda Hydro Power Station here, I told the president that people are coming and they are using your name that we have been sent by the president. Can you please do something? Or can you allow the locals to cut? He was pretending as if it was not doing, he was not even hearing that some people were accusing him that people are cutting the timber in his name. And to make matters worse again, after the enforcement of our traditional leaders, they brought up those Zafiko people who wanted now to start buying the whole 40 foot of a container at 50 pin. And now to access that 50 pin also, it was taking about 5 months or 6 months to get the money of 50 foot of container.
Diamond TV was led to a yard in Mansa where the Chinese national, only identified as David, used to operate from after government gave him the license to trade in Mukula at the time there was a ban. Upon arrival, the Diamond crew was immediately told that taking videos was not allowed because David, who happens to be the owner of these premises, where we found hundreds of Mukula logs and machinery, was reportedly in Lusaka.
David. Moment. Okay.
No.
Very good.
Thank you, sorry. Francie!
Dapat from Chinese uli wanza unga shikarifa.
Epo ali mu Chinese lomba tutaishwe.
How you are managing to deal in the Mukula business when there is a ban?
Nothing. We just waiting the new government just authorize, give us a permission because we process the timber with value additions. So now this government just keep on us waiting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So during the PF, you were still trading in timber.
There are so many companies that are trading with the legal papers.
With legal papers?
Yeah.
With what papers?
Legal paper.
Okay, so you have legal documents.
Now this government authorize us. We are waiting.
You are now working?
Yeah, we are waiting because our company, we are already legal business. We put the value additions, process, then we finish the product. We will apply, we buy the production license through this forest department. Then we start to buy from local, then we start to process into the furniture components. Then we apply to export.
David bari mpera ma papers numba shashi wa papers bampere nga yakushita export nga yakushita shan but bari mpera David na shwata ne lyori ne balandro ko bati naire kuri ba jin kapata to ire no bachirango balandro ko bati yori bituma bombera chapa mumwa muchita price omwa kwa tefu mukura David bantu akwata license yakuchita katushinga bampere yasha but bari chitrebani but bari tuwebo kwa tukabye ni kuri nani akabiri I was office muri ba jin kapata.
A timber dealer whose identity we have concealed revealed how the Zambia National Service was allegedly dealing in Mukula during the ban.
The people brought confusions in the industry as ZNS. The ZNS people, they are the role of, what can I say, policing, working with police as a DJOC or PJOC, as military people to impound the illegal Mukula or what. But one funny thing, they also found themselves dealing into Mukula again. Now we were in a confused state where the people who were supposed to monitor us, it became interested persons. They were also cutting and processing and exporting.
When was this?
That was last year. For the past 2 years, they have been doing that. We don't even know how it came about. They had to bring in a Chinese. That Chinese had to set up a camp in the barrack, military barrack. Those were also some of the surprises which we got. How can a Chinese be allowed to mount a workshop where he had mounted the wood misers, and then the same Chinese bought the tractors, about 4 tractors, and the one Sinotrack, which was ferrying Mukula from the bush, Bukwesa, to Lwanfum camp. And how it was operating, we were surprised because one of the ZNS officers by the name of Mr. Sichone, he was the one in forefront buying papers from forest in the name of ZNS. Now, after selling the money, we are told it was not going into government account.
Our team could not get very close to the ZNS camp as the place is heavily secured, and the locals say we could do so at our own risk as they had heard gunshots from there before. The place you see in this picture is the said ZNS camp where the Chinese nationals were allegedly processing timber during the ban.
If the arrangement was real, why is it that just after UPND took over, they even demobilized from the bush and the Chinese is nowhere to be seen? The only thing we saw was tractors were ferried back to Osaka. But if they were for ZNS, why couldn't they remain with ZNS here? And why stopping just after the government changes, then they stop working if it was a genuine? Because as we are working with our other timber, we haven't stopped. We are just waiting for Mukula to be opened. But for other timber like Mbanga, Ndale, we are working. But them, they have demobilized. What made them to demobilize if it was a genuine contract? That was ZNS. They were escorting their own timber. And they were also used to escort timbers for, there was a program again which came in the name of Zapid, in the name of handicaps. It was also a scandal in some extent because the timber, there was a ban. But how did it start? When they couldn't allow us with licenses to continue.
GOtv wrote to Zambian National Service to request for an interview over its involvement in the Mukula trade, but there has been no response to date.
There were allegations that at the time you were commanding ZNS Mansa, there was some timber dealings that were happening in ZNS. So we were hoping we could get an interview from you to highlight what was transpiring at the time.
Apparently, I'm no longer there, and even when I was working there, I was not the commanding officer, but I was working under someone else. And as per our military, anything I have to present to the media, whether it is true or false, I am not supposed to be any spokesman of the service at any time, but we have our commander, the ZNS commander, and also we have our public relations, who, even if someone was there, they are able to speak on such a person.
However, there was a new development on the 18th of February 2022 when the Anti-Corruption Commission announced that it arrested a Zambian National Service Director of Operations for corrupt practices involving exportation of Mukula logs. The Commission spokesperson, Queen Chiwe, said Colonel Maliwa Mwanei, aged 45, of ZNS Makeni in Lusaka, was arrested and charged with 1 count of abuse of authority of office, contrary to Section 21, Subsection 1 of the Anti-Corruption Act No. 3 of 2012. The ACC also disclosed that Colonel Mwanei, while acting together with persons unknown on dates unknown, but between 1st June 2021 and 30th September 2021 in Lusaka, abused the authority of office by arbitrarily resolving to regularize an attempted illegal export to China of 23 containers laden with Mukula logs transported by Axon Tembo of ACK General Suppliers. The commission added that the act is prejudicial to the interests of the Zambian government of the Republic of Zambia. The senior ZNS officer has since been released on bond and will appear in court. Zambia Forestry and Forest Industries Corporation PLC, Zafico, to address allegations made by timber traders. No response has come forth so far. Diamond TV also wrote to the Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities to get their view on the allegations that they were being used in the illegal trade of Mukula. Also, there was no response to that inquiry. We made several attempts to try and get in touch with the former Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Jean Kapata, to get her side of the story regarding the allegations of her involvement in the illegal trade of Mukula. Chief Chitanda of Mukula Province also added his voice on the illegal trade of Mukula in his chiefdom.
Ngawatulekere tulekala chalo mpija makooperative twekala pamo twapanga chimo twambo ku kulaputula nyomba baitukala pansansa kwena emubwipi kuti kwa itukala pansansa fulekala chalo mamuna kutila batulesha nakaliana kalete kwesha bazika ponde fundeli kurusana okay katwa mafungo abantu alitina namba tumana chuko balitwala myo tukana bayikatamba basenda kwi ngabe nabo kata special license bamusangusha ani abo tubamu bene vuti bashamfu vone bachalo vone babantu nafuna kalena kaje kutukanira kumo nomba abo bene abo akwetia makaya kutila bene balepisha ayo makaba yafumira pi tafaishi bikwe kuvyane fuma.
One of the villagers spoken to shares similar views and hopes that the status quo will change now that there is a new leadership in government.
Kwena tumfuako fina ifino kwe watu barasenda na share nomba tatuwa shiningishuko basenda.
From Mukula Province, our quest to find answers in the illegal Mukula dealings led us to Northwestern Province, where we found thousands of Mukula logs in Kasempa, and we were met by Shamano Goodson Sondashi, who is the Zambia Association for Timber in Forest-Based Industries, ZATIF. According to Mr. Sondashi, groups to protect Mukula trade were formed, but only for him to discover that they were all cover-ups.
DGOC is District Joint Operations Committee. That is a security combination. I think it involved like here, DEC, it involved Zambia Police, it involved even Zambia Wildlife Authority, they were part of it, and everybody. Forest officers also working together. I think the idea was to curb, the illegal trade in the Mukula timber. But now what was happening is this same DGOCs, PGOCs, and CGOCs that were actually facilitating the movement of timber for the politically exposed, those that had the powers, to command, because we could see that trucks were even being escorted by very senior military officers. They will load the trucks, 10 of them. You find maybe there are 4 cars that are escorting all the way to wherever the trucks were going.
Mr. Sondashi also later found out that there were more illegalities surrounding Mukula trade.
In 2017, as an association, through our Secretary General, Mr. Kalawamoto, we sued the government then. We sued the Director General of Forestry and then also the Attorney General to seek for judicial review of all those restrictions and everything. And judgment was delivered in our favor. So the respondent is instructed to, 1, authorize the export of timber, which was ready by that time. 2, it instructed that the respondent issues concession licenses that were approved and paid for by the members of the Zambia Association of Timber and Forest-Based Industries, and 3, that the respondent issues export permits, conveyance licenses, and production licenses which were paid for by the members of the Zambia Association of Timber and Forest-Based Industries, and to renew licenses or permits that expired as a result of the unjustified restrictions. So to date, the respondent has not acted on this judgment. The Director of Forestry could not act on this. Where was he drawing the powers? You only assume that he was drawing these powers from the executive, because we know very clearly that these people were involved. We know the names of people that were involved. We know that they could come here with branded vehicles and so on and so forth. Some of them today are sitting even in our National Assembly as members of Parliament. Meanwhile, there are those that were involved in these activities.
Just when he was yet to accept the status quo, Mr. Sondashi got yet another surprise.
In 2018 December, there was now a total ban, where now these small traders that were doing timber from here could no longer do it. So it stayed on until just recently, last year, sometime I think around June, when I heard that now there's some man who purports to have a court order because of the losses that he suffered, and then he was given a go-ahead to harvest about, I think, 11,000 something cubic meters, 11,000 plus cubic meters. And so this is the gentleman that came here, and he recruited people to begin harvesting. So he started harvesting. This was his main loading bay, and then he recruited a lot of people to be cutting from everywhere around the district. Then at the same time, we saw a lot of trucks getting into Mufumbwe. They were harvesting there and loading and so doing all sorts of things. But we had a meeting at some point in Lusaka as an association, where it clearly came out that the one who was harvesting from Mufumbwe was a different one, and the one who was harvesting here from here had nothing to do with the one that was harvesting from Mufumbwe. So later on, then we heard that no, those guys are those that are involved with, I don't know whether is it Zapit, yeah, who had some land, I hear some farmland in Wapula or Northern, where they were allowed to harvest timber. Then from there, I don't know whatever deals they clinched with the government to begin harvesting from everywhere. So, but to those that had concession licenses, such privileges were not given back to them. I can tell you that even up to now, as you drive around these roads, you find that there has been establishments of these checkpoints. You can see the council revenue points. All those were established during the time of Mukula. So it was now legalizing an illegal activity for as long as someone had to get out something.
Stephen Mwaji, a resident in Kasempa and also a civic leader, narrates that when there was a ban, he too stopped trading in Mukula and that he was really affected.
We never used to cut timber when the ban came. Immediately it came, because as like myself, I'm a civic leader. I understand law properly. That was the last, when we had the ban, no one was able to move. What we remained with is we just kept some watchmen to take care of those logs which we had already cut before the ban, and logs which are there are those which we were cut down before the ban. No, we are disadvantaged, real, because that was like a source. We were at least getting something to help our children go to school. Yes, because you know that why we heard that the TJM have come. They've come to buy logs. So you hear that, oh, something. That's why we rushed there to say, let's join them also. You get your 2-3 trucks, you sell, you find something to help your children, your family, see our family.
So we appeal for the government, new government, to legalize the whole thing. Then they just help us to follow the law. We trade in Mukula. That's our major appeal as timber dealers.
Ndefu afikuwa ba New Dawn government ukuba tubabombere popalifi bebomba na bena ma ministers ngefe ali bomba banabo. Ba HH ba bali bebabomfya kuma ministers ngefe ali bomba banabo. Betangisha kwa makada zina tutashasa na pamula ndo makada zina bafumya kwa kadarism. Ifi ali bomba banabo. Bantu government ya previous government yari fe kwati chipante fe bari bomba feature chons. Number 12 yuko batu bakonka nyepo no mutima wino ko batikadarism by chef yeko. Then no kubomba bwino na abantu na ba rocos.
Kutichawama abali pamulu ba ministry wa balance tadi abele bafimuti. Iso balance. Batu basumisha kwa abakala chalo. Wala katako kumfira fimuti. Bantu kwena maputula malogize ponga ni yanga awo yokutwala kontweno bakushita wangu awo abantu kuti ba manifi wangekala.
The future is in agriculture. Now that is the new term used to foster local citizens to get their hands dirty and participate in the agri-sector. Timber trading is an agribusiness that if one invested in would reap exponential profits. But currently it is not so for Zambians, as evidenced in the documentary Mukula for the Ruling Elite. Would it be wise to give concessional licenses only to the locals? Is it time for the ban to be lifted? What is the way forward in timber, especially Mukula trading? We, as usual, appreciate your contribution. So please do send us your feedback on this documentary by emailing us at documentaries@diamondtvzambia.com.